Unpivot, the show for Excel and Power BI data people. I'm Win Hopkins.
I'm Sue Bays.
I'm Giles Mail.
And I'm the new guy, Cristian Angyal.
Cristian, welcome.
Cristian, second guest. Woo!
Yeah, that Proctor bloke.
Yeah.
Mark who?
We
What?
missed you,
Who's that?
Mark.
Really happy to be here.
Welcome. Welcome. Do you want to give us a quick intro, Cristian, about who you are?
Yeah, sure. The translation for my name is Chris Angyal for the English people. So Angyal in Hungarian is angel.
Nice.
We were just making fun a bit at the beginning. I have an engineering background, but I'm a project management guy who turned into a data guy due to the appearance of, or my discoverance of Power Query back in 2014. And then
Power
BI.
Query fan.
Yeah,
exactly. So
right
Unpivot
Excellent.
suits exactly for my taste.
You're in the right place. You're in a safe zone.
Do you know what I learned this week?
Yeah,
I
me
learned,
too.
I learned that Power Query can help you write KQL. How very cool is that? KQL is used for real-time intelligence.
Wow.
So,
I didn't know what that was. And I thought you said cake at the start.
Yeah.
So I'm blown away.
I can go on. I can divert into cake.
Cake.
I was there, and I can attest that I saw a 30
Yeah.
million data set just filtered in sub-second.
Direct.
Wow.
And I loved it.
Yeah,
Live.
but he used it was shown. It was Brian. I will not be able to pronounce his surname. He's from Denmark, and it's crazy surname. But he showed us how to use Power Query to write KQL. So it was just amazing. So KQL is a language that enables you to interrogate a custo database, and a custo database holds streaming data, millions and millions and billions of rows of data. So it was very
Blown
Data.
away. Can I just express my dissatisfaction with Cristian already, because he's got a sexier, hard to pronounce surname than me and a better beard. It's not fair. Two fronts.
Don't worry. Nobody in Romania can say my name right because it's an Hungarian name. So everybody is just saying Angyal, Angyal, everything. But for the English people, it's Chris Angel.
That's cool. I like that. Chris Angel. That's
cool
a really cool. That's like a film star name.
like Giles
Angel.
Mail.
Good.
Giles Mail.
No, like Giles Marley. That would anyway.
Giles
God.
Marley.
God.
Just go with one name, Sue. It's easy. Sue.
So,
I'll go
so,
with
Chris,
Sue.
so
Great.
Cristian and Sue, I met both of them for the first time in SQL Bits in London.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what also sparked a bit of conversation about doing these sorts of things as well. So we had a few
And
good meets,
just
which was
because
good.
we couldn't, it's been 5 minutes. Cristian and Giles met in Munich when we ran the Munich Marathon.
When we
Giles.
ran, should we talk about the
Exactly.
running we did in Munich?
No,
Yeah,
no.
she talked about
You
the
were
running.
doing
I did
the
on
running.
Saturday. I did an ultra on Saturday.
I came there.
Did you really?
I came there.
Ultra? What's an ultra?
Ultra marathon. It was 33.5 miles across Dartmoor, cross country. Completed, never, ever, ever to be repeated.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
That's just
Yeah, no, cross country isn't my thing. Not Dartmoor, not rain, not drizzle. I didn't have anyone to talk to because we had to concentrate on the ground.
We've got
Yeah.
to keep doing this until Win genuinely has to mute us every
And-
episode.
yeah.
And I've just got one more that I can throw in. One
Yeah,
more and then
do
I'll
it.
stop. So because of data and the community, you get to meet lots of people like Cristian and Win. I've been chatting for years with this chap called Jack. And Jack emailed me to say, when I was talking about I've never run a marathon in America, emailed me to say he and his wife live near Napa Valley. And there is a marathon in Napa Valley. So, and they offered to host me. So I'm going to Napa Valley in March.
Wow.
Enjoy.
So I'll stop now.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So two trips to US in March, right?
Yeah.
One for the
MVP.
marathon and one for the MVP summit.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of trips, oh no, not to America, because it's not in Vegas this year. But you've got a speaking gig, haven't you, Cristian? At Fabricon Stockholm, is it?
Stockholm. Yeah.
Nice.
24,
What topic are you?
27.
What topic have you got? Power Query in some way?
Of course. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, I will do the magic of merging in Dataflow Gen 2. A little bit above the 6 default joins.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Power Query
Excellent.
on steroids.
Yeah, Power Query.
I
Exactly.
sort of got used to the
And I love
name
it.
Dataflow now. I didn't
Yeah.
like it at the start. I was sort of, why didn't they just call it Power Query Online
Yeah.
or something? But
Well, it's still online, but
Yeah.
there are 2 generations, and
two, no,
You saw
Gen
it.
2 now.
It-
And
Can I
Totally
bow down
different
in
data
homage to
sources.
you now, Win?
oh, what's that? Sorry, Sue.
Can I bow down in homage to you now, Win?
Oh, go on then.
Go on then.
What's this? What's
on
this
then.
about?
Your logic app, how to pause and start fabric capacity
Oh,
using a logic
yeah.
app. I did it. I've
Yeah.
just done it just now, and it's all working beautifully. So thank you.
No worries.
you
so
have
yeah,
to
so
teach
if,
me.
so if you sign, if
I
you,
saw the video.
so with it's a Excel and Power BI and Power, podcast, but Power BI has now been absorbed into Fabric. And I always tell people it's like, if you've always used Excel and then all of a sudden Excel is part of Office, then
Yeah.
that's what's happened. Power BI is now part of Fabric and you get loads more stuff. But you can pay for Fabric, like pay by the minute, essentially.
Yeah.
So you can then turn it off and on at night or on the
Yeah.
weekends. So you don't need to pay for that potentially. So
Wow.
I
So
copied a few other people. I've got to give shout outs to the other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Soleil and
Gilbert.
Gilbert, I think, and a few others
Yeah.
that already did
Yeah.
stuff. And I just copied theirs and did a YouTube video on it. How to
Yeah.
do that. Pretty straightforward, actually.
Yeah. We had
Once
Kane
you know how.
Snyder on my meetup going through it as well.
Yep.
But it's brilliant because what it does is it opens up the ability to use Fabric for smaller businesses. So because what you can do, Giles is laughing at me. So what you can do with Fabric is you have the big one, which is for all the enterprise customers, but it comes with all really fancy stuff like notebooks and machine learning and a lake house and a database. So you can just pull all your data in. And I originally thought it's only for the big businesses because I work mainly for smaller businesses. But with this, you can have a small capacity, which is a couple of £100 a month, which I thought was still too bit costly for some of mine. But you can turn it on and off. So like Win said, you can just pay for it by minutes. So then at the moment, I'm trialing it, but you're looking at maybe under 50 quid a month. So
There you go. Yeah. And I have to say thank you to Sue because she taught me last week how to put the F2 capacity on. And then the next week she had the user group with the session, how to turn it off and on. And then I saw your video, Win. So thank you both.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ah, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good. Well, glad to help. Thank you for that, Sue. Is there any other news? I saw Giles's bigger news.
Two-time. I am the
Two-time
two-time top
champion.
voice.
Two-time top voice.
Good time already.
Just a
Deal of it.
space.
Woo!
Space of 2 weeks.
Oh, I'll
Just
tell you
gone,
what.
Oh, mate.
Already, I just feel like I am Jedi level now. I could keep going on this. When the problem is, I'll get booted off the platform at some point. But two-time LinkedIn top voice. How much time do you want me to take up? 20 minutes sharing the story?
Yeah,
No,
20
should we just
seconds.
move straight on?
We're very, very proud of you, and we feel humbled to
Humbled and
be
honoured,
in your
hashtag.
presence and
that's
to
what I was
know
aiming
you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Expected. Thank you very much, Sue.
The challenge is now, Giles, peaking at such a young age is what do you do for the rest of your career?
Oh, Win.
Don't feel that young. My God. I'm
I've
retired.
relative.
seen your Instagram post, camping and Guinness. That's the problem.
Awesome.
So no more running, Giles. No more running.
Oh, it's we're no, sorry. It's a
Right.
it's a temporary thing. I'm still in a phase where I have no desire to put my running shoes on at all. The pub just suddenly seems way more attractive than staying fit and healthy. So at some point it'll pivot back, but it's kind of ebbing and flowing at the moment.
You are going to run for a bit with me in Budapest, though, aren't you? If I go drinking with you, you'll have to run with me for a little bit.
No.
Sounds fair.
No.
No, not even the pre-morning run.
Probably not.
Right, we're just losing listeners by the hundreds. If anybody's still listening,
fault. That was
thank you.
Cristian's fault. It wasn't mine or Sue's for once.
Yeah, I was trying so hard.
I'm the new guy. Yeah.
Thanks, Cristian. I've got a little bit of news. I was so last week, or after the last episode anyway, I did one of Oz's. So Oz de Soleil does these expert challenges where you basically he gives you like a little bit of data and it's all a bit messy and you've got to do something with it, and it records you doing it. You look at it, you have to solve it there and then and come up with the solution and stuff. So it was all right.
Yeah,
it was all right. It's a bit sort of, our company, I've been doing this as a job for 17 years, is about taking customer requirements and coming up with solutions for Excel, Power BI and stuff. So it's a bit embarrassing if you just look at it and you just go, don't know, So it was a bit, I thought I'd be able to do it, but I was a little bit of you that just think, So no, it went all right.
Sometimes I like to think about it though. Sometimes I look at it and you almost have to step back to think about it. So I don't like being on the spot like that. I like to mull it over before I do anything sometimes.
There's a funny episode with Dim early on that with Oz's challenge where for those of you that don't know Dim, he's one of the top kind of guys that competes in all the Excel World Championship stuff, and I think he solved it in about 2 minutes.
He's the world champion.
Yeah, he has been a number of times.
World champion.
But he just solved it in just a ridiculous amount of time. But that's standard Dim.
Yeah,
I was there sort of. The solution was either a Power Query solution or a dynamic array solution, and I wasn't sure which path to go down. And I see that a lot on LinkedIn now. I post Power Query challenges and lots of people submit a dynamic array solution, which is, perfectly good. We can do this stuff now with all the new dynamic array formulas, with like wrap to calls and split and V stacks and all these other awesome, sort of new features that are very Power Query-esque in what they do. But I sort of knew what the Power Query method was. So I just went down the safe route. Apart from like getting a countifs the wrong way around and forgetting what merge I needed, I was fine. But it went all right.
So with the new functions, because I live in the back end of Excel, I don't live in the front, although I did find a new tip this week, so I'll share that in a minute. Is it as reproducible? So when you use the dynamic array and then you split columns or you wrap or you do the things you said, can you then reuse that on something else? Is it easy? Is it easy as copying a Power Query?
Yeah, because it's dynamic. If you change the data or you add new data, in theory, it should all update.
Can you use that function that you've written on another Excel spreadsheet easily? Because that's the thing with the Power Query. So you take a generic date one, you can just copy it and plonk it in. I store mine in GitHub.
Only the structure is the same.
Yeah, and also you're kind of getting into Lambda territory there. So we've just been doing some stuff on 5G Lambdas with Craig Hatmaker. So Lambdas are kind of native to the workbook, but that you will find GitHub gists and other repositories where very clever people have built very complex Lambdas that you can then import into the advanced formula environment. So that's pretty exciting stuff where that's going.
That's the programming. Sorry, Cristian.
One thing that I saw about reusability is Ken's monkey tools add in with the possibility to inject lambdas and functions and everything. So some of them, yes, are reusable, but for the same type of structure in terms of dynamic arrays.
Yeah. Lambda's a programming name you use within Python to sort of create just one-off functions.
Yeah, reusable functions that can self-reference as well, which I still haven't quite got my head around.
Oh God, we went into that last night on a session. The recursive lambdas.
Yeah,
I can just about get my head around the normal stuff, and then Craig started talking about recursion. I was like, oh God, it's genius. But if you've never seen it before as a Excel grid modeler, it is mind blowing.
So you're talking programming now, Giles. Recursion is a programming aspect.
I'm saying the words.
Yeah, but
we all say the words.
It was interesting because when we shared that post, somebody put a post on about programming languages and how many users Excel had compared to SQL and Python and stuff. But within Excel, you are programming. So you are programming.
Yeah, there's just levels to it.
Yes, true. Yeah. Can I share my basic tip that I found this week that I was very excited about?
Love it. Could be a new feature. Sue's tips.
Sue's tips.
I was working with a customer about grouping data. So, hundreds of rows, and we're trying to take from old, put into a new system, and we were grouping it. So I'd hidden some of the columns, and then I wanted to open them. So rather than do the right click and unhide, if you double click in the column header, it unhides some of them. I didn't know that.
Nice.
Just say rather than, it's these clicks, double click and it unhid it.
Too many little things.
Yeah, little things.
Need a jingle for
little
this.
Things, yeah.
Little things.
It's the little things jingle. I can think of it now. Yeah, lovely. It's the little things. What genre should we have?
I was really pleased with that. I was like, oh, look.
Yeah.
Click.
I'm going to
go country.
Can
we go country, Win? You could probably
country
make
music,
that, couldn't you?
yeah, okay.
Country music
Yeah.
for Sue's tip of the week. Is it Sue's tip or just the little jingly tip of the week?
It's the little things. Sue's little things.
It's the little things.
So I'm going to put Cristian on the spot now, and I'm going to say, can I put you on the spot, Cristian? All right. So
sure.
A Power BI hidden tip, little hack or gem or anything. And while you're thinking, anybody else Sue can have a think as well, or Giles as well from an Excel point of view if you're not into Power BI. So like something people don't know, although you think they probably should.
I have one that I'm using on all my models, and there are those two sides, keeping the measures at the fact tables or the ones having the measures in a separate table. I'm not going into this discussion, but in terms of columns, I'm having a small C# script just hiding or placing all my columns in every table in an underscore columns display folder, having everything arranged. So you can do whatever you want with your measures, either put them separately or have them in the same table, doing again folders and so on. So for me, this is the first thing what I'm doing after I'm doing the relationships. It's not necessarily a tip, it's more of a personal preference, let's say it like this.
Yeah.
But I love to do it, and it's on my first of the at least 45 C# scripts that I have listed in T3.
You and Sue with your C# scripts and stuff.
Oh, it's brilliant, Win. One of my favorites.
You can do lots of stuff.
I'm a lazy Excel guy, Cristian. Who signed him in?
I'm a lazy guy.
Yeah. 2 tips. So one using a C# script, and that is to change all of the dates in my model into short date. Because who wants a long date in your visual? It just takes up too much time. So that's one of my key ones. And then the other one, I use it on slicers or tables, account rows. So every single table that I have, fact table that I have a count rows measure. And when I want my slicers to only show the data that is actually present in the table, that meets the measure, rather than just, it's part of the table, but it doesn't necessarily qualify. if you do a count rows is greater than 0, then it will only show you the values in the slicer that are present in the table, the visual, rather than the entire table. So it just shows you what's present in the visual rather than the table. And that's really good, because you can then, users aren't having to scroll through, 500 records in a table, only the ones that are visual.
So Excel slicer, right?
Yeah.
You go in, you tick a box, don't display items without data.
Yeah.
And you've got to come up with some, C# script to automatically create count rows. You're going to go and drag into a filter that then, that's a bit bonkers, isn't it? It's a good hack, lovely hack, but you shouldn't have to do that, should you? Go on,
No,
and I have one more thing. I have one more thing that I did this week, and it's again a matter of personal preferences. On the external tools, you have them in the order they were installed or whatever, depending on how many you have. You can have a bunch of them, totally unorganized. They can be organized, and I came up with a solution how to organize them, because for everybody listening, you can change the name of the pbi.json tool file that it's keeping the external tool, and the order of the files there gives the order on the bar there. And there are external tools like separators, and I have a really nice long list of external tools, and I added my own external tools with links to Power BI service, to Romania Power BI user group, and to another link. So I'm just having the links on top. I told you I'm a lazy guy. This is why I started to learn Excel and then Power BI, just saving the clicks.
I was going to say that's really weird, but I did exactly the same thing with Excel toolbar years ago. Built my own ribbon with all my own buttons and stuff in. It's like too much time.
I know, I have it.
You wonder why in Excel it's so easy to do, but in Power BI you have to put a measure. I wonder if it's because of the complexity of the model, or what you can do in the visual, because all the visuals interact with each other, whereas they don't necessarily in Excel, do they? But then if you have a slicer in Excel, you can attach it to multiple tables.
Yeah.
I've got a tip.
Giles, what you got?
Don't build financial models in Power BI.
It's straight into the topic.
Nice segue. We love this.
Lovely. So topic of the day is, and we'll come back to question of the week or question of the day, but Giles has segued in quite nicely. So Excel versus Power BI, which to use when? And one of the things I flagged up was this idea of building a financial model. But then that was I've lost who it was now. Who was it on LinkedIn that was raising the topic as well about Power BI and Excel? I can't remember. I'll find out now.
Wasn't it Stephen someone? He was called Stephen someone.
What's Steve Donaldson? Oh, I don't know. I'll have a look. Apologies. So Giles, what thoughts then? Just in terms of financial modeling, and then we'll broaden it out in terms of where are Excel and Power BI's strengths and weaknesses and etc.
It depends on what hat I'm wearing. So for in my just general nerdy modeler hat on, I think, there's people like Liam Bastick that I think he's written a book on this, like building a 3-statement model in Power BI, which I'm immensely what's the right word? Respectful of, because it's just very clever. In practice, I think it's kind of bonkers, but you have to be a little bit careful with what you mean by financial modeling, because I think if you're talking genuinely about forecasting 3 statements with lots of drivers and assumptions, and you need lots of flexibility and all of that stuff, I just don't see the incremental value in switching from Excel to Power BI, because it is I know Power BI is really powerful, but it feels very clunky is the wrong word, but you have to do things in a very, very complex way, it seems, in Power BI that you do so easily in Excel. So that's probably where I'd start.
we've had this conversation running, haven't we?
We have,
we
yeah.
have talked about this. But yeah, Stephen Donaldson.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, and I'm on the same page. I think Excel's just the right tool for that financial modeling job. You can do stuff. You could do it in Power BI, but I just think it's easier in Excel. I just think it boils down to that.
Everything reduces to getting the right tool for the right job. And
Yeah,
in general,
exactly.
even if using Excel versus Power BI, I don't think it should be a discussion. Nobody's replacing anyone. So it's not something like this. It's using the right tool for the right job just does the thing.
My comment was financial modeling in Excel, but financial reporting is done very well in Power BI. So it's considering what it is, what you're doing. So I have built financial reports in Power BI, but I don't think I would use it for financial modeling.
I think that's the key distinction. It was, what do we mean when we talk about financial modeling? Because if Mark would probably have a lot to say if he was on here as well on this. But if you're talking about bringing through trial balances and transaction data and maybe even reporting 3-statement outputs, that's great, but that's not strictly modeling. What people mean when they talk about financial modeling. So you have to be careful what you're talking about.
Do you want to explain?
Financial reporting.
I had to ask Giles this because I was saying, well, what's the difference? What do you actually do, Giles?
What is a financial model?
I can try. But what does that mean? You can imagine me, but what does that mean specifically? Tell me what that means.
I could definitely try. I think so. I could go on for hours about this, which obviously I won't do. But I think lots of people that are very good at modeling and very good at Excel will do various forms of financial modeling. Most people in the financial modeling space would assume you're talking about building a 3-statement forecast, so income statement, cash flow, balance sheet. You might lean on historic data. So quite often you'll have like the prior 2, 3, 4 years worth of historic reporting numbers. But typically it's not like there's any mad data analytics or predictive analytics going on. It's just like, what was the prior year's revenue? What's a growth rate? There's the number for the next year. So if you look at things like project finance as an example, really complex commercial agreements, also really complex spreadsheets with tons of stuff going on that you have to manage, and it's just been done in Excel for decades, and it works. And that's kind of the key difference for me. Is typically financial models will be predominantly looking forwards. Then you get into the kind of FP&A world where you might have models that both look forwards, but also you are looking in part at
FP&A. What's FP&A?
Financial planning and analysis. So you can have whole FP&A departments in bigger companies, but it's there's the financial planning part and the analysis part. And then you get into the world of reporting, which I think is typically backwards looking and going in quite a lot of detail at what's happened using data. That's when you get into the Power Query world, because you might be leaning on Power Query to pull through TBs or transaction data. That distinction, which way are you looking and in what level of depth is probably a nice way to pull it apart, I think.
Yeah.
And that whole piece of scenario analysis as well.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what's the classic is best case, worst case, those sorts of things, but also tolerances and stuff like that. And what if demand goes up that percent, or what if the exchange rates fluctuate by this much, and where are your tolerances and where are your big risk factors, and all that sort of stuff about influencing decisions. And that's just typing things in and playing about with inputs and stuff and having instant answers. That's Excel's bag, right?
Yes, it is.
It really is. And especially when you think of like the average skill of a finance team, I'm going to guess that, most people don't know how to use Power BI. Most people in finance teams are still quite low on the kind of skills spectrum, even in Excel. So it's quite a big leap to go from Excel to Power BI. And if you haven't got like an obvious extra benefit, I don't know why you would. But having said that, I haven't read I don't know if any of you have read Liam's book, but I know he had some challenges getting through the solution for it.
Yeah. It would have been hard, I reckon.
He used a lot of DAX behind it, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big difference. Just like Sue said earlier, it's one thing to do financial modeling and another thing to do financial reporting. I'm an engineer. I don't understand most of everything you spoke about, balance sheets. And so every time I had to do a finance reporting, I had to go to the basics and understand what they are saying so I can do the financial reporting. And there are some really cool custom visuals, and now using SVGs, we can go in financial reporting with Power BI very good, as long as the data is right. But the modeling itself, I think it's much easier to do it with the tools that you know. And as you said, Giles, the finance guys are usually the most versed into Excel in a company. So if they are doing it like this, it would be, they need to have some really cool benefits to start learning Power BI and go that route.
Yeah.
All right, so let's focus on what does Excel do better. We've said financial modeling. What does Excel is still the right tool for compared to Power BI, or whatever? Have we got without going on forever or anything?
What did someone say that? I posted it. They said, I think I put it in the chat. They said, Power BI is like your rocket. It'll take you as far as you need to go. It's fast. It's powerful. It's visual. But if you want to turn the corners and you want the detail, then that's where Excel's really good. So I tend to. Power BI is a way that you can pull in many, many different types of data sources, and you can aggregate it and group it and filter it and get them all talking to each other. And for people that aren't numbers predominantly, a lot of people see things visually. So it's a way that you can really throw a magnifying glass against your data, and you can see results that are happening. And it can make it very easy if you design your reports correctly. It can make it very easy for your brain to understand things that are happening. But when you want to drill down to the detail, and this is me that deals mainly with data, then I think, Excel is brilliant at actually really going to detail for me.
Yeah.
That would be mine.
I think
you're right, but I have two additional use cases where one of the better thing is Power BI for details with drill throughs. For example, you can get to any detail on any visual. So this is not necessarily a differentiating point, but the differentiating point for me is not even the data sources, because you can use Power Query in Excel and get data sources and do data models and so on.
It's not as powerful.
The difference is the security, in my view. And there are two things: security and interactivity. Yeah, true. From the front view, it's not as strong as Power BI, but in the back end, think about it, it's the same thing. You can have data models.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, it's security in Power BI that lets you really secure your data and have some repeatable processes, and interactivity in visuals. I would love to have more interactivity in Excel. And I'm using Excel lately for proof of concepts and ad hoc analysis. I'm trying to move away from Excel as the main source of information for a process, for example. If you can do it better, I would prefer to do it better. If there are the skills to maintain it afterwards, of course.
Yes. I think Excel as well is just, it's just got so many uses. It's not just financial modeling. It's not just reporting. It can be anything, especially when you start to add some VBA on top of it and stuff like that. You're into a whole coding world of it can be anything you want, right? I've seen people build like Dragon Master computer games and stuff inside there, and all this sort of, it's just you can do anything, right? So you're just taking it to a whole nother level. I don't even know if that classifies as Excel. You're really just talking about VBA with a Excel front end. But I don't know, Excel's free. Well, I say free, everybody's got it, so you don't have to pay. So there's a downside to Power BI. And the security thing, I think the centralization and the security. Oh, are you going to argue,
is free.
Christian? It is.
Yes,
You're right.
Power BI
You've
is
got
free.
me.
Power BI desktop is free.
It is.
And
it is.
My workspace is also free, so I can publish my own reports and have them in a different location. You can.
Yes.
You have to pay when to share, but the free part, it's as free as Power BI on this side.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of extra thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned it in a previous episode, but Gasper Kamenchek did a really good talk at the Global Excel Summit. So for me, it was a bit of a light bulb moment when he was talking about the way that role level security works in Power BI, and the fact that you have this really streamlined way of using your data once, but then you have the reports and the dashboards filtered by user. That was a real okay. At enterprise level, that I totally get it. If you've got the skills, why wouldn't you do that? If you've got different managers for different regions, you don't have to replicate all of these data sets in different pieces. But the other thing I would say is, I don't think you can underestimate the value of Excel just being the incumbent that everybody's comfortable with. Like, we see this in trading, even getting people to go from the grid to Power Query, when you're saying like, look, it's still Excel, but you can see it in people's eyes where they're just like, oh God, hang on, where have you taken me? And that level of comfort where people are just in the grid that they've always seen, and even if they're not that skilled at it, I think there's huge value in that for people.
True.
Yeah, good.
And having just a button for unpivot everything, to come back to the name of the podcast. I loved it. This got me back in 2014 when I discovered it.
There is this big overlap, right? There is the Power Query overlap. There is the Power Pivot model, although that's a little bit tired now, and it's
it doesn't.
If you make a change, all your pivot tables break, or you rename something, or you have to reload. So it's amazing, but not as good as the Power BI data model. So there's that overlap. But then for me, really, the Power BI one is that centralization piece. The fact you can centralize your Power Queries in data flows, or you can centralize your data model and build other reports off it. Or you've got a bit of more overview as well. You can click a button and see who's been looking at your report.
Oh, that's cool.
Those years of me producing management packs day 5, month end, and then never knowing if anybody ever looked at it, those days should be over, right? You just click the button and you go, that person who said they really needed this by Friday still hasn't looked at the thing I sent them. So
I like using them. I had one of the requests for top level. They wanted the detail, and because it's like you say, it's all published, it's in the service, Excel attached to the service, pulled in the table I want, pivot table off this one beautiful golden semantic model, as we call it now. Indeed. Just sat there, and it's feeding so many different reports, and you just pull it from Power BI service into Excel, and it's just so being able to use the right thing for the right job.
No more final version 2.
Well, it depends. It depends. With the Power BI files, up until last year, you had to do again V1, V2 final. Well, with Git integration, we are starting to move away from this and get a bit more better version control. Let's say.
But you are with Power BI, you are forced into having the same file name in the same place all the time.
Yes.
So the Power BI report is called, because you've shared links to it, you've shared the app with people.
Yeah.
And if you want to update the report or republish a report, you have to republish it with the same name.
Yeah.
Or delete it and reload it and send out more links.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Well, you
Not
do.
necessarily.
You
You
have-
can
hold on.
update an app and keep the same app and change the content.
Oh,
You can
yes.
put new reports. You can do.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
You have a single link.
I think what Wynn's referring to
Yeah.
is, you can't, when you publish it to the service, you have to, if you want all the links to remain the same, you have to keep the name the same once you've
If you've
published
shared
it as a golden
reports,
data
yeah.
set. Yeah.
If you're sharing apps, then yeah.
Chat apps is different.
But would you have a version
I managed
one?
to-
Would you have V1, Cristian, on your Power BI report name in your app? V2, V final?
No,
In
not
the
in
app?
the app. In the app, it's always only one.
Yes.
But
So
on
you're
the
doing
local,
it, you're just not telling
hard
anyone.
drive.
Yeah. But mind you, if you store it in SharePoint, you can
No.
go back to you've got version control in SharePoint, which is not, obviously, it's not
Yeah,
as good as
this is the
Git, but
Yeah.
poor man's
SharePoint.
version control.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
I'm using SharePoint more and more and more.
Do you?
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot of people that go from Excel to Power BI. So there's obviously that sort of there's that thinking, that skill set overview. But Power BI also brings in the database admins, the SQL folks, all these other. So it's this sort of like tool that brings everyone together with a common language, and I really like that as well. So that's sort of it's that centralized piece. But another thing that pops up, and I don't know if I'm going off topic, and if people have got other thoughts on this, but that sort of requirement for SQL knowledge. Essential, not essential? Thoughts?
It depends, just like everything else. It's not really needed, in my view, but it's a really, really good thing to have. So for me, I'm coming from the business world. I was an Excel guy, no knowledge of SQL, no knowledge of anything. But I had to learn. If I wanted to do more with it, I had to learn SQL. I had to learn other stuff, data modeling, and so on. So it depends on what you are doing. If you're doing basic stuff for yourself, not really needed. If you have a good friend, a DBA friend who can write a SQL query for you and save a view. But if you want to be the guy telling the DBAs what to get out from the database, then you need to learn SQL and go that path.
Can I ask you, the three of you, a leading question then? So when would you use SQL instead of using Power Query for something that you think you're going to end up in Excel to do some analysis
Going to end up
on?
in Excel. If you're
Why
pulling
would you
direct
put SQL on the same level?
Why would I?
Sorry,
because
go
of
ahead.
my probably poor level of knowledge of the details of when you would use SQL. Because to me, you're pulling data from a database.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but you could also do that through Power Query, surely, for certain things.
Yeah. So what I would say is I've a good working knowledge of SQL, and it's excellent for pulling data out of databases. And what I find is also really helpful with understanding SQL is that it teaches you to think about the data in itself in a tabular format, where you're selecting, you're choosing the tables, you're choosing the joins, you're adding in your filters, and when you use Power Query and you're pulling it from a source that allows you to have query folding, and query folding is where you condense the Power Query to pull it from the source in an efficient manner in Power Query, not necessarily in SQL, in Power Query, then it's about understanding what you're asking the machines to do, the servers to do, the databases to do, so that you can be as efficient as possible. So if you're working with data, then having a working understanding of how SQL works enables you to have a better knowledge of what you are asking when we create Power Query.
Exactly. So using Power Query directly from sources like CSVs or Excel files can be really, really slow because everything gets loaded in the RAM memory. and it can be really, really slow. As long as you have structured databases, well, and in the Microsoft world, SQL is the most used or the most visible one, let's say like this, for data analysis. It's much better to push the transformations towards the source. So using Power Query to get the data with query folding, yes, you have to have some understanding of the SQL. And just like Roche Maxim, there is a saying, and he has an article about it. Push the transformations as upstream as necessary, as upstream as possible, and as downstream as necessary. So it's really cool if you have to have an entire solution built in the most efficient way to know as much as possible from that point of view. I will never be a ninja in SQL.
If I'll follow on from Giles's question then, because I'm in the same boat really, in terms of just understanding. So if you, to know, I can imagine if you just inherited a database and you wanted to write a SQL view, because a view is a nice sort of separate piece already, you already do your merging and filtering and it's ready there for Power Query to connect to. Lovely, right? But I don't know how often that would happen. And also, if you're learning SQL, do you really need to be the person who's actually building the database in the first place? Is that where it really has its most, where does it have its most value for somebody who isn't the creator of the database if you've got Power Query? Where's that real value piece in that scenario, in my narrow world of Power BI and Excel reporting?
I would probably say it doesn't really if you're using Power Query, but where it does help is when I've seen reports where people have used Power Query and it's just messy, really, really messy. And if you understand SQL and you understand how you're pulling the data out, then there's a certain process that you go by so that you're doing Power Query, select columns. First thing I do is I make sure that I only pull in what I need, select columns, and then I might filter. And so I'm doing things that will talk to SQL. So when my Power Query is sent back to the database, the SQL can read it and it gives me everything that I need pushed back as far as possible. Then say I want to add an index. If I have to add an index column for some sort of sorting or grouping or something, I do that at the latter stages because that isn't part of query folding. And that's what makes my Power Query slow. So and whilst you're working in the desktop, it isn't necessarily such a problem. But once you publish your report to the service, then it's rendering all the time. And depending what query feeds into another query, it can then make your refresh time really long. So if you don't get your queries efficient, then that can make your refresh slow. And understanding SQL and what's happening with your data enables you to make your queries more efficient, and then your refresh is faster, and the report then is easier for your users.
Can I? So to respond to that, and I get what you're saying, and I'm also trying to be really realistically real world about this. I think a lot of finance people would hear that and go, okay, it might be a bit slower if I do Power Query, but I don't care enough to have to learn SQL. That's not what I'm saying. But also another point. So it was a leading question because in my head, where I think I've seen it add huge value is kind of what Cristian alluded to, where you've got a database with tons of data, tons of fields, and actually, if you've got a finance team and maybe you've got 50 people building models with Power Query, maybe there's a step of filtered data that you can create using SQL that then all 50 people in your finance function can lean on. So rather than having versions of incredibly complex Power Query in 50 models across finance, because they're leaning to the big source data set in the company, they're leaning in on this SQL database that's been filtered already just for the finance team. That was kind of my understanding. Yeah,
that
An
ties
example,
yeah.
Yeah,
a
sure.
real life example about exactly what you said. In our company, we have a custom fiscal calendar starting on April 1st. And you get some really high level fiscal calendar from the corporate level. Well, it's a 544 calendar. Fiscal year starts on 1st of April and so on. But you have 4 columns or 5 columns in the entire calendar. Well, few years ago, just to cover this need, just like you said, Giles, I went with Power Query. We listed the table in a SQL database. I went with Power Query, and just like Sue said earlier, I made sure that I added enough columns, not breaking the fold. In the end, when I had a really custom calendar with everything I needed, with day offsets, week offsets for custom time intelligence, and so on, I just right-clicked, got the native query, gave it to a DBA who had the rights to create a view. He said, "What is this?" Because Power Query is not writing the
not efficient.
nicest SQL.
SQL.
Well, it's not necessarily. It's an easy table with, I don't know, maybe 10,000 rows, but it's not nice. And I said, "It's working. Please save it as a view." And everybody in the company, all the finance guys, all the materials guys, including myself, doing the Power BI reports, were just connecting to that view or the custom calendar and use it everywhere. So you don't have to have it all the time.
So,
Good.
yeah,
That
it ties
helps to
into
get that confirmed. Yeah, that's kind
Yeah,
of what I
it's-
was hoping
yeah.
the answer was.
it ties into Wynn's view that you have a view. If you do have a database team, then you can have a view set up. And if you have a view set up, then it's being able to talk to the database team and find out how the view is set up and whether you need it changed or amended. But not everyone has that that support within their organizations.
Yeah.
True.
Love it.
In terms of any other key, like somebody came up to you and said, right, I've got this thing I want to do. Should I use Excel or Power BI? Is there a starter question? What's the opening gambit? What's the question you want to know before you can advise either way? Or have we covered that off already, do you think?
Yeah, mine
How
would be
often do
who's
you
going
need
to use it? Who's going to use it
Who's going to use it? Right.
and why?
Audience.
Yeah, and why?
What's the end result?
Yeah. Well, what are you trying to get to?
Do
Definitely.
you want to print it off?
Yeah. Well, do that in
Serious
Power
question,
BI.
right? Serious
Well, no,
question.
if you build a model in Power BI, you can stick it in a paginated report. So I think
Yeah.
that's, but it is
Exactly.
that who's it for? What are they going to use it for? What's their skill level?
I would ask, how often do you want it? So the
Skill
refresh, I
level's a
would
good one.
ask if
Yeah.
you have it, if you want it every day, it's one thing. If you want it once per year, well, you can have it in Excel.
And also licenses. If you want everyone to use it in Power BI, then they're going to need a Power BI license. Whereas, and as we said, alluded to at the beginning, Power BI licenses not everyone has, because you'd have to probably have Pro or you'd have to be in a premium capacity.
Yeah.
But for Excel, pretty much everyone's got Excel. So who's going to use it? Why are they going to use it? What have they got to use with it? And then that helps.
There is a common misunderstanding, not that big these days, but was further back, which was if you pay for premium per user, which was the double cost, $20 a month, then no one else needs a license.
Okay.
But
everybody
that's not
needs
right.
a PPU.
Everybody needs to pay double.
Yeah,
exactly.
Best catch ever. So you get more features because they use the same terminology, right? Premium per user. Because if you buy premium, which is like $4,000 or
5,000
or whatever now, $5,000, then people don't need a license, but you have to pay at least $5,000 a month.
Still need to buy Pro though, don't you?
And then
Exactly.
the people
You
sharing
still
still
need
have
Pro.
to have Pro on top. So yeah, maybe we have a whole episode on licensing. No, it's been very dull.
Yeah.
God, yeah,
I
I'm
like
not the old for that.
Yeah. I liked PPU once you could use when they stopped paginated reports being premium and then they made it PPU. But now you just need Pro, so that's good.
Yeah, there's some good features. Any other thoughts, Giles, on what questions to ask or that sort of thing?
Oh no, I think those covered it. I think knowing who the stakeholders are and what their motivation is, because sometimes you find people that we've seen this so many times. Oh, our manager wants us to use Power BI. Why? Because he saw a report and it looked cool. So okay, that's not a great reason to switch everything from Excel to Power BI. I'm just a little bit disturbed that we are 55 minutes in and we haven't had the jingle yet. Is that?
Oh, we want the jingle. All right. Do we have the jingle?
We changed it to jingle of the fortnight.
Let me see if the jingle works. All right, come on then. Let's go in here. I've changed it.
I've forgotten what the question is.
Okay,
said it yet,
we haven't said it yet.
Oh.
And because Giles pulled me up on being question of the day, I've remade one now called question of the week. Right.
Just
So
for you,
let's see which bit of my tech collapses today when I play this.
I'll accept
All right,
that.
here we go. Hold
Nearly
on.
accurate.
It's the question of the week. It's the question of the week.
And it just goes on for about an hour.
I feel like
It's really annoying.
I should have a tankard in my hand swinging.
In Oktoberfest.
Can I just say, if anybody is still listening, thank you for being such a patient listener. Write in, we'll send you a gift card or something, because good effort. Probably Mark Proctor's the only one listening, because he's on holiday and he's probably having his run. Watch out for that tree, Mark. Right, anyway. Okay, what is the question of the week? Let's do it quickly. Well, first of all, we've all got, you guys have got day jobs. I'm got to go off to bed soon.
Don't be
have
late.
we got time?
Dinner.
Have we got 10 minutes?
Got 10
Okay,
minutes.
we're good.
Yeah.
Don't be late for your dinner.
Yeah, I know. Oh, last time, oh dear, that was disaster.
It's Dan's fault.
Yeah, Deb's fault. Okay, question of the week. If you could fix one thing in Excel or Power BI, that was the question of the week. And I'm because I want to do two things, I am going to say, is there one little thing, like just an annoyance or something, and then one that's a bit more meaningful, or maybe it's just one thing. Anybody willing to put their hand up? Yeah, Sue, go for it.
I've got two small ones. I'd like my dates to come in as short dates, because that annoys me every time. And when I add an image into an image or I resize, I don't want to have to change it to be normal each time.
Oh, yes.
Annoying.
And 100% transparent sometimes.
Exactly. Who uses any other thing? Really? Those two clicks, three things: date and image, make sure it fill, and I don't want it,
Okay,
zero.
lovely. We'll put those on the list.
Yeah.
Cristian.
intelligence. I would really love to have it fixed.
God. I didn't have
It's
that one
killing
down there.
me.
Yeah.
It's killing me every time. And another thing that I would change in Excel is the model screens. I would really love to work in Excel while I have Power Query on.
Yes,
and
I
be
agree.
able to do another one. And another small thing also related to Power Query. I want the centralized Power Query repo to have it published somewhere. So do you remember when in 2015-16 you could save your queries to somewhere, and then you could access them? Not there anymore.
There was like a library
and I would love
type
it.
thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I would love
like a
it
central library
both in Excel and Power BI.
Reusable
Can I have another
functions.
quick one and then I'll stop? Another quick one.
Okay, yeah, go.
I'd like to be able to, in when you do Power Query and you have the data view and you can have the different tabs. So you can pull in the table to show the model view, and you can have different tabs.
Yeah.
I'd like that in Power Query. So in Power Query view on the desktop, it's just one thing. I'd like to be able to separate out into tabs.
I can give you the idea that I wrote on ideas.fabric. It's already an idea that needs some votes on this.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah, right. I'm stopping. Go Giles. Go
Giles?
Giles.
Do
Go
you know
Giles.
what? I've really struggled. I wish. Did you send that question out before? Did I just? You probably did, didn't
Yeah.
you? I should
Yeah, I
have prepared
forgot.
for this. I've had to think on the spot. I would. So I'm going to steal one from Dim early, which was I would change the name Lambda to something like function, because I think Lambda confuses everyone. And I would hope this is coming anyway, but I think having a way where Lambdas can, without an add-in, be managed at a kind of enterprise level across workbooks would be a really cool development.
Ooh,
I have a
nice.
feeling that I suspect Microsoft are going to look at everything everyone's trying to do, and I suspect they'll do that at some point. So those
Yeah.
would be mine. Sorry, Dim, I nicked your thing that you've said a few times.
It's very
That's
cool.
a good view. They're good.
And
I like
and
those.
again, thanks. There
What's
were
yours,
a whole bunch
please?
of. Oh, I'll get that now. I just want to, while I remember. So a bunch of people, we put that little question out as well on LinkedIn under the Unpivot show, and a bunch of people put sort of their sort of requested features or annoyances. I was actually surprised at the broad range, right? And that's the problem, right? For the development team, the Excel team, that everyone's got their own little thing. So my little one is basically getting rid of the merge cell icon and replacing it with center across selection for
Yeah.
Excel.
Yeah.
So the default button should be center across selection. It doesn't even exist
Love
as a shortcut button, which is bonkers. And then the other Excel one was sheet protection to be totally fixed. So for tables and so get tables to work on protected sheets, stop people from pasting over cells when the cell validation is on and stuff like this. You know, all that, make Excel more robust, because you have to spend a load of time trying to make it bulletproof, lots of VBA and stuff and awful things. My Power BI ones is overhaul of conditional formatting. The interface is horrible. I just want to make my negatives red.
Yes. Yeah.
Or delete the min, change it to number from percent to change.
Oh, I know.
Just less than 0, red. That's all I want, right?
Yeah. I use measures now for that.
Or use measures now. And then a little flag to say, is this measure or column used anywhere in the report?
Yeah.
So
Instead
I
of
can
having
just
to use
delete
an
it.
external tool.
Yeah. So those would be mine. The I posed this question a few years ago to the Excel MVPs, right? So this is the top 5, if anybody's interested. Number 1, I'll go from bottom up just to build the excitement.
Oh, love it. Yeah.
Amazing, right? Number 5.
Everybody.
That sort of pop music going. Blank and error options to the top of your Excel filter. So when you click on a drop down, you see the blanks and the errors at the top.
That's a good shout.
I think errors are up there, or blank. One of them's up there now.
I think
They
blanks
actually added
up there,
that
isn't it?
recently.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think one of them changed. When you create a table in Excel, okay, automatically include in that pop-up box where you say my table has headers, also include table name.
Yes.
Oh, I like that.
Really
a lot.
good shout.
That's a good
one.
shout.
That's a Ken Pull's favorite. That one.
Very good.
Number 3, allow interaction when in Power Query. So allow, as Cristian said,
Yes.
allow
Yeah.
yourself to get into the Excel file when you're in Power Query. Number 2, allow data validation lists to be searchable,
Yes.
which they now are. And
Yes,
that was one. That was a
with
request from
dynamic
4 or 5 years
arrays.
ago.
It's working.
Yeah. And then
Need a drum roll. Drum roll.
number 1, enable dynamic arrays inside tables.
Yeah, Mark had some counter arguments with that. He actually raised
I
some
saw
really good
that.
points, and he had a good video on it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
People should check out Mark's video. Relatively recent, that one, wasn't it?
yeah, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I
I was on your side, Win. And then after seeing Mark's video, I tend to agree with him.
Yeah, I'm not really. I've come across enough situations where I thought that would be really handy, but it's just been so many one-off things that I don't know if it's what the downside. I never considered the downsides, or the potential problems with it. It's just like this specific scenario would be nice if it worked, but I'm not sure. But yeah, sorry, Sue, were you going to say one more? Or?
No, I was just
No.
2 things. Someone was commenting about something on Power BI about what they wanted changed. And Jay, who's the program one of the program managers, principal program managers, was actually said, but is it essential? How it would be nice, but the list that we have, you know, we have to actually, you know, really, really organize and sort. And they said that an Excel is really hard to change because people are just so used to everything where it is, that to change something in Excel, you know, requires so much thought and consideration. But on our LinkedIn, which I hadn't realized, there's 67 comments on your question for the week.
Yeah, there's a lot of people sort of just bouncing around ideas and stuff like this. I will point people to, I'll put a couple of links in the description of the YouTube and in the notes in the podcast, to ideas.fabric, now it's called, .microsoft.com, for posting your ideas and voting for them. And also the Excel feedback portal, which isn't getting a lot of love, but you can put ideas and vote for them in there.
Coming back these days. You saw that with Copilot and everything.
Right, there's some more activity going on in there. But yeah, even the other day, a guy called Jeff Weir, who's on some of the social platforms and stuff, he just posted, I'm really annoyed that every time I want to insert a step in Power Query, a little box pops up saying, are you sure you want to insert a step? So he posted that, right, on let's say one of the social media platforms. And Amir Netz, who basically sort of heads up to some extent the Power BI team, he went, yeah, I'll ask the people to do that. And Colin's like, he's the boss man to some extent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the org hierarchy exactly where he fits. Senior.
Hi.
Like 4 days later, here we go. Power Query. You can tick a box now to say, please ignore that. Don't ask me ever again. So
I know, I saw that and I thought, genius, brilliant. So thank you, Jeff.
Well done, Jeff.
There's a
nagging
hashtag.
a lot does work.
Yeah,
there's a hashtag.
There's a hashtag that Jeff is doing since years now. Hashtag ClickTags, and now he's just pushing Power BI team to check out the threads and everything. Maybe they can save some clicks.
Reduce the click tax. It's a good term. I like it.
Click tax. Love it. It's really cool.
Funny, Jeff.
Awesome. All right, folks.
No, I've got one more thing. I've got one more thing.
Sorry, John.
It's really important, this. Should I go for my scuba diving top voice? For
scuba diving
number
top
3.
voice.
Do you think I could do it?
You totally should.
If
you have the same experience like the other ones, you should be there. For sure.
Well, can I counter that with, can you put your trainers on, please, and go for a run? Because if you don't run with me at least once in Munich, I'm not going to be happy.
You mean Budapest?
Budapest.
Maybe. I'm probably more likely that I'll be a scuba diving top voice in 2 weeks. We'll see.
Be doing scuba diving.
Let's challenge yourself and go for both.
All right.
And that
wraps it up, folks.
Join you in Budapest.
Are you coming?
We'll all come. Yeah.
You're going to come, Win?
No. All right, I do have to wrap it up. Do you not understand? I'm wrapping it up. Here we go. All right, lovely. Cristian, thank you very much for joining us. Awesome. Really appreciate chipping in. And enjoy the rest of your holiday. You just starting his holiday, and this is how he begins.
I know.
First day. This is perfect.
It can only get better.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.